that choice that's inherent in what makes it different.
Has anybody in here ever sped? Sped. Driving your car.
Everybody does.
Gotten lead-footed.
Everybody does without
Not pay attention. You didn't even have to get a ticket. Didn't even have to get a ticket. I'm asking a question. Has anybody in here have ever sped?
Yes.
But not meant to. You look down and go, holy crap, I gotta back this up. You put the brake on. You slow down.
Right.
You don't, it's not because you saw a cop, it's not because you, anything. You did it by accident.
Right? You just realized.
Balaam's not doing this by accident.
Right.
He's going, that speed limit does say 70, but guess what? 76 is where I've got to be. It's where I really want to be. You know, that movie starts in 10 minutes. I got to get there on time. He's making the distinction himself. It is definitely something that he did make that distinction. He was the one saying, I want this to happen. And the way the voice on that plane that you had, he was creepy sounding, didn't he? Yeah. Go ahead.
May I paint a picture of how this story applies to me?
Go ahead.
Israel, prior to this, last week's portion, how are the things in the camp? Is God real pleased with Israel?
No.
He's not, is he? They're not aware of Balak and Balaam up on the hill. But there's a lot of infighting and things like that. In my own life, am I perfect? No.
That's it.
But have I accepted started this walk?
Yes.
Am I aware of all the dangers and the things that may wish to come against me? No. But God is, and He's protecting me. Can someone put something on me verbally if I'm one of His? No. How can I suffer if I'm one of His? My choices against Him, not your bad words against me, but my choices against Him. So it is a daily walk, so I need to choose Him and be in relationship, because no one or nothing can harm me, because He has blessed me.
Right. Right, because, you know, curse those who curse thee.
This whole portion would have been really different. And after 12, if he had said, do not go with them, you shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. And like Deanna had even just said real simply, okay, and that would have been enough. And he would have said, sorry guys, not going with you, not thinking about it, it's overdone. I'm the Lord's.
Right.
This would have been a shorter portion.
Sure.
I think a huge message. I think that, you know, it's about, how about if I just kind of play with you a little bit? How about if I just intermix with a little bit? How about if we just mix a little bit of what's right with what's wrong? What about if we just kind of, let's just play, I know that I'm really for the Lord, but how about if I just kind of entertain this thought a little bit?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, another way to put that is, you know, I can go change these people. You walk into a devil church. Yeah, there's demonic churches out there, y'all see. Okay. And I'm not talking about the Church of Christ down the street. I'm saying there are actual demonic churches. Okay. Well, you walk in there with that kind of mindset. Are you playing with fire? Are you doing God's will? Because I'm sorry, I never saw in here, you need to go and do that. Now, when they're casting out demons, they're also surrounded by a lot of people that are going to see this and be changed. You don't walk into a demon's nest to cast out demons. They don't want to change. So I'm with you. I mean, it absolutely had something to do with, you know, let's string it along, because what if I can show them? I mean, because seriously, we don't know his true mindset, but we know that it could have been. All right, let's throw it out as a could have been. He could have been going, well, I want to show them who God really is.
But I'm going back also to what Jim was saying. It's our mindset. Yes, their words can't curse us, But if we play with the things of the world, if we mix just a little bit of that, the first thing we know, the perversion is there and it can infect us.
Sure.
And so that's why we have to be extra careful in that intermingling thing, the mixing thing, making sure that our thoughts are pure and that our course is true and pure.
I think let's move on a little bit, but
I don't think he was forgotten. There at the end, he told him how to cause Israel to stumble. Because he told Balak, put your women in there. That goes totally against God.
Well, that's just a pointing out of the slippery slope. Start trying to compromise on a little bit here, and and it gets worse, and now it's like, okay, God's not bending to my will here. Wow, here, I know.
well, can you see
I know,
this
I
guy
get it.
being a martyr for God? Can you see Balaam being a martyr for God? Was Balak at the point where he was really upset with him?
Well, yeah, then he got back on his women.
Yeah, he took back everything. He was like, you better get away from me. Because I was going to honor you, but guess what? Now you're on that other pit. So I'm just making the statement. We don't know all the situation here. So, to say he's one way or the other, I'm not going there. Truly. I am saying no, he is a prophet for God. Is he for him now? Or is he not?
The difference though with questioning that we've seen already, and it does have to do with your intent and where your heart is, because when it talks about Balaam was angry with his donkey, that same word, when you bring it back, one of the first mentions of it is Abraham saying, God, don't be angry with me, but how about if 30? He's sitting there questioning God. He's kind of, in a sense, playing God, but we know where his heart is. It's completely different than where Balaam's heart is at. But God, he's sitting there having this discourse with God going like, well, come on, okay, how about if only 30 are yours? Will you do it then?
Let's move on.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
I think one of the interesting things, and I think it's important too, is each time that he went, or that Balak took him somewhere, he was taking him to a high place,
Right.
to an idolatrous high
Yeah.
place.
Right.
So if he had been able on one of those places to curse those people, what would have made that God look like? Okay,
Absolutely.
he's stronger than Yahweh.
No, you're right. You're right. And the fact that he used 7 rams and 7 bulls. But he also had them build an altar every time. It wasn't take this altar that you've already got up here. It was build an altar. But no, I totally see that, because that would have been showing Balak, why didn't you just go to your God?
Yeah.
I think when I was reading it too, that when he took them to the different places, if it was the influence of the people, he could see a lot of the congregation, and he kept seeing less and less. Maybe if it's the people that's influencing him, okay, he'd change his mind too.
I don't know. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's a good point. I like the fact that it gets to the point where he's shut the door. I mean, shut the door 3 times. I mean, blatantly shut the door. And not only blatantly shut the door, but then bless the people. So, it wasn't just a willy-nilly, no, we're not going to do this. It's like, okay, I'll really show you how this works. My people shall be blessed. And that's what he does. But then we've got even to where Balak's just pleading with Balaam, going, just shut up. Just don't bless them, don't curse them, don't do either. Just forget about it. We're done. I mean, he gets to that point of frustration of, oh my Lord, this is what we want just to have happen. We just can we start over and go home? I mean, that's what he's asking. And then he tells him to go home. And when Balaam, and it's 24:1. And when Balaam saw that when it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not, as at the other times, to seek for enchantments, but he set his face towards the wilderness. what's happening here? Anybody got a thought? 24:1. This was a very specific action.
Wilderness is a place where God isn't.
Okay?
But he is with the Israelites because he sees the whole camp tribe by tribe.
Right.
Therefore, he's going to see the dwelling place of God that's going with him.
Right? And when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not as at other times to seek for enchantments, but he set his face towards the wilderness.
Sounds like you stopped arguing.
Isn't the wilderness a place where you seek God? Because didn't Yeshua flee to the wilderness to be tested for 40 years? So it's sort of it's getting rid of all the distractions. It's a place where you have to rely on God.
Okay? Now let me ask this question. Why, if he is a prophet, and every other time he seeks words of wisdom, he's gone to his enchantments? Why does he change his mind after seeing it pleased God to bless Israel? Because I'm making the point here, this is where we see Balaam change. This is where we see him actually make the conscious effort to say, I'm not for God. We talked about the slippery slope earlier. This is where we actually get to see him just go ahead and dive off. Because then what happens? God says, and he fills him with the Holy Spirit. And then what does he do? Took up his parable and said, Balaam, the son of Beor. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all that. But he goes over in the fact is, how goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, thy tabernacles, O Israel. God makes that point. At that point, he makes him blessed without him even wanting to. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is that here is where we get to see that switch, that mind turn. Because if you have a routine, do you change it just for any willy-nilly reason? No. No, we all are habit. We're creatures of habit. We have a routine that we do. We set ourselves in. Why? Because it works. Well, Balaam is seeing that what he's trying to do isn't working. And so he stops doing what he thinks he knows works. And he goes, well, I'm not going to seek after these enchantments this time. I'm just going to turn towards the wilderness. And does anybody see that differently? Because you can. It's not laid out one way or the other. But my thought is, this is where Balaam has his change. This is where we get to physically see him turn that corner and say, I'm not for you, God. And God says, doesn't matter. Okay. So he goes through and he blesses them. He blesses the children of Israel. And then in 24:10, and Balaam's anger was kindled against Balaam. Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam, and he smote his hands together. And Balak said unto Balaam, I caused thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast altogether blessed them these 3 times. Therefore now flee. He doesn't say go away. He says flee. He says you better get out of here. Then what does Balaam do? Balaam said unto Balak, spake I not also these to thy messengers? It's not my fault. I told you going in. You didn't listen. Why are you blaming me? It's all God's fault. This is why I make the point that 24:1 is where we see him completely turn from God. It's where he changes his mind and says, I'm not for God. Because now he's blaming God. Is it because he's afraid of his life for his life, or is he just? I think so too. Okay.
I think he's also still hoping for that money, you know?
Right.
I gave you a service. Sorry it wasn't the exact service you wanted, but
But these were the terms that I laid out.
Right.
These spiritual people, they call themselves spiritualists, they use God, they know the scriptures.
Sure.
That's how they get people hope instead of God. They want the person to tell them, yeah, it's gonna happen, this is, whatever.
Yes, sir.
This is the kind of guy that guy was.
He believes in God. Well, Satan.
Right.
God,
Right.
the business.
Right. No, he does. He absolutely does believe. He knows who God is. I mean, he's seen the visions. He's heard the voice. He's seen the angel. He knows who God is. That doesn't mean he's.
He also knows who the devil is,
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
because he uses devil arts.
So I had another thought and it just kind of went away. Oh, another just interesting thing. My Bible is the King Jimmy version. Okay, it's the regular King James version. Uses unicorn,
Yeah, mine does.
and it uses it actually only 3 times in this Bible, and 2 of them are in this portion here.
Where is
It says unicorn. Instead of wild ox, like y'all's versions, 23, 22, yeah, and 24:8 uses the word unicorn or the name unicorn instead of wild ox. I thought that was very interesting that the 3 times in the scriptures where it's actually talking, it uses the words here. It actually brings it up only 3 times. 2 of them are in this.
Yeah, where's our Hebrew expert?
Huh?
Where's our Hebrew, what does that wild ox word mean over here?
Wild ox didn't God say that Ishmael would be, what he said, a wild ass.
It's R-E-E-M.
Yeah. R-E apostrophe E-M. Reem.
Probably raised or roos or wild bulls, which are now extinct. The exact meaning of
Right. Just kind of like the skins on top of the tabernacle. We don't
Balaam was a prophet for high money.
Right.
Well, that's going on a lot now.
Oh, sure.
You give them enough money, they'll tell you what you want
Oh, yeah. Well, fortune tellers, that's what they make money on.
That's how they know the word.
That's right. Well, I honestly, a lot of that, though, is just they know how to read people. Because Balaam did, too. Balaam knew how to read people. He knew how to read him. He's like, I'm going to draw this guy in. Stay here tonight. Yes, sir.
What's interesting here is God showed Balaam revelation.
Yeah, he chose.
Well, no, I mean, he showed him the end,
Right.
the coming of Yeshua.
Right.
Because it says it's in 17 through 19.
Absolutely. That one shall rise up, the scepter shall come out, and then all of Moab shall be crushed.
Right, so this is Revelation. So
Absolutely. Definitely the second.
And of course,
Definitely
he
the
doesn't
same.
know that, but that's.
Moab's still around.
That's John in the cave Revelation.
Right? Absolutely. And it's big time too, because he's also saying it to who? The Moabites.
Yeah.
He's saying it to the king of the Moab. He's going, now wait a minute. And there again, that's coming from
How are the
God.
Moabites today?
They live in the Jordan, southern part of Jordan. Because Edomites and the Moabites, they're,
Oh,
yeah,
It's
the
Edomite.
map isn't exactly, they don't have their own country, but they exist in those areas.
they're, the Arab groups that, brought from, what they're called?
Bedouins.
Bedouins.
Okay, guys, one last thing we're gonna go over. And then,
Ammon is the capital of Jordan, so that's where the Ammon is.
all right, Fred. One last thing we're gonna go over, and then we're gonna move on to what I want to go over else today. Israel's adultery in Shittim. Okay. 25. 1 through 9. Okay, so
First two were pretty hard.
yeah, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. The Lord said, "This is a no, 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 no."
Second commandment.
And these guys, they abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab, and they called the people and sacrificed to their gods, and they did eat. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. Okay, so Baal Peor, who is that? Master of Peor.
Or the husband. Balaam's husband also. It's one of the things. we
Well,
said.
I think this is more of an alliance that they made with the people of Peor. So, not only are they committed a whoredom and they're just sleeping around and all that kind of stuff. Now they're sacrificing eating with gods. But they've aligned themselves with the people that God told them not to. Right? Because did God ever tell them, go in and convert these people? Not once was it, come and convert. It was, you make sure and distance yourself. So, but this is my point though that I was trying to get to. Because we see the whoredom, we see the sacrificing to the gods, and then we see join themselves to Baal Peor. When was God's anger kindled? Huh? When they joined themselves to Baal Peor. Why?
Because you're not supposed to bow down to idols.
Okay.
They did it for the pleasure.
Okay. I make the contention it's because they have just said who your gods are will be our gods. It's not because they sacrificed and bowed down to idols, and it wasn't because of the whoredom. Okay? I think that it was because, you're right, he's a jealous God. But it's because they said, well, we've had fun here. Thanks for bringing us out of Egypt, but now we're hooking up with this group of people.
And light can have nothing with darkness. Light can have nothing to do with darkness.
And like I said, I bring that to where it is, or that light to it, because this is something that we do all day long. Yes,
Can I read that? It's in 2 Kings 17,
yes.
32:1. This is after God divided Israel and Judah and kicked Israel out.
Right.
And it states exactly what you're saying and why it's so bad. 2 Kings 17:32 to the end. It says, they worship the Lord, but they also afforded all sorts of their own people to officiate for them as priests in the shrines and the high places. They worship the Lord, but they also serve their own gods in accordance with the customs of the nations from which they have been brought. To this day, they persist in their former practices. They neither worship the Lord nor adhere to the decrees and ordinances. And there's no such thing as it. The laws and commands that the Lord gave to the descendants of Jacob, whom he named Israel. When the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites, he commanded them, do not worship any other gods or bow down to them, serve them, or sacrifice to them. But the Lord who brought you up out of Egypt with mighty power and outstretched arm is the one you must worship. To him you shall bow down, and to him offer sacrifices. You must always be careful to keep the decrees and ordinances, the laws and commands he wrote for you. Do not worship other gods. Do not forget the covenant I made with you, and do not worship other gods. Rather worship the Lord your God. It is he who will deliver you from the hand of all your enemies. They would not listen, however, but they persisted in their former practices. Even while these people were worshiping the Lord, they were serving their idols. To this day, their children and grandchildren continue to do as their fathers did. They created traditions, and they worshiped traditions.
Well, I read somewhere that, when they went up on top of the mountain and worshiped Baal, the Bible said they worshiped Baal. Well, they said that they were not playing Baal when they were worshiping. They were using God's name to worship and sacrifice. But God said, do not do as they do, you do it in Jerusalem. And so when they went up on the mountain, they were actually following Baal practices to worship the God of their fathers.
Okay.
So he considered that Baal worship.
Let me take this a little bit different route then. Husbands, you are to cling to your wives, right? What? It's the same. It's the same practice. It's the same idea, because that's what we are. We're the bride. Now, if your husband is clinging to you, what are you doing to him? Clinging back. So, the point I'm trying to make here is that, or the way I look at this, because it's opinion, this is opinion. And thank you for bringing that up, Jim, because you're absolutely right. I mean, God's told them. He's told them time and 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 time again, do not do this. They're not listening, obviously. Well, to the point where there's a divorce that has to happen for them to get it. Right? But what I'm making here is that because we're dealing with a lot of the betrothal stuff right now with Whitney and with Wade, and what's going to take place there, and the fact that they're going to make this covenant, which happened where? At Sinai. All these people were at Sinai. They all heard the voice of the Lord. They all said, "What you say we will do." And then they said, "We don't want to hear you anymore. Go ahead, Moses, take care of this." But they have made this covenant, okay? And this is what Whitney and Wade are going to make. They're going to make this covenant in front of God, and they're going to say, we are going to be one. We're going to be one person. We're going to be one emotion. We're going to be one spirit. And that's what is angering God, is because they aren't. They're joining up with Baal Peor. They have clung to someone else. They've already got a marriage contract. They haven't had the consummation of the wedding and all that